in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Nation!
5 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of whistling injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of oppression.
You can't hear.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the hands of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely land of poverty in the midst of the vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of America socially and finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we come here today to dramatize a shameful condition.
This paragraph's open if anybody wants to step out.
Alon.
Alon, you want to do it?
In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They were singing a promissory note to which every American was to feel this note was
So Mike's here. Mike's here.
White men would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted this promissory note in justice, and equality. We respect
that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation.
and so we come to push this ship a check that way. Yeah.
Upon demand, the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off.
No, or to take the
Tranquilizing drug of gradualism.
now the
Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children.
Jessica, Lovdy, Barry, you come on.
thank you.
Okay. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. Sorry. And those who hoped that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. And there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges.
But there is something that I must say to my people, who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In this process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny, and they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone, and as we walk, we must make a pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back.
There's a big heart for a little kid.
Olivia? You sure? Aviva? Alyssa's friend.
Yeah, Alyssa, why don't you and Audrey come up? So you guys can read something.
Oh, free.
It's true. I'll let you know. And you can read up here too. Why don't you read this paragraph?
Daddy. I think this should be okay. And so even though we face oh, that's long. There are those who are asking devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies are healthy with the fatigue of travel cannot gain lodging in the motels of highways, in the hotels of cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signing stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote, and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters, and righteousness like a mighty stream.
I am not mindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells, and some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left the battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans that of creative suffering. Continue to work with the Mississippi. To the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can be changed. Let us know not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, and so even though we face the difficulties of today, tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. Listen. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, the state swirling with the heat of justice, swirling with the heat of operation, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice.
Anybody else want a shot?
We got DeAndre wants to drink.
Yeah, come on up.
You don't even know if I can read.
We have great expectations.
Oh, that's it.
We are.
Oh, I thought someone wanted to read this part. Didn't someone want to read about 4 little girls?
The 4 children?
You want to read the little girls?
Just push her out.
I know, but she.
It's not Lucy's.
Are you sure? Go ahead. Read the little girl part.
Do you want to read it?
Oh, wait,